see. So you get what I'm saying? That's more so what I feel like.
Yeah, you was talking about how we have another umbilical cord.
We have two umbilical cords, right? We have two umbilical cords. The umbilical cord that is attached to the mother while the embryo is, turned into, or rather the fetus is turned into an embryo, the embryo is turned into a fetus. Which one is it? As the damn child is turning into a baby, that's it. As the child is turning into a baby, there's a shoe, whatever. There is that spiritual umbilical cord that keeps him attached to the physical realm as he is still being molded in the mother's womb, which is the spiritual realm. So now that same umbilical cord is also being uh created when you now are going to transition into another dimension, or rather into another spiritual realm. That's why I said there's a different entity that comes over you. You get what I'm saying? And forms that umbilical cord so that you can go to the cosmic mother, or go to wherever you need to go to. So there's two particular types of umbilical cords. And that's why I said, in terms of, people knowing that they're going to make the transition soon, because there's spirit guides that come through and prep you for that. You get what I'm saying? Prep you for that. And it's all about, because that's when you say transition, you pulling this person through. So that's basically my take on, people knowing that they are going to make the transition, on a spiritual level. But what you also mentioned was a good point, especially when you live in a particular life cycle or lifestyle. One day you know that you're dealing with some greasy people.
Yes, with a possibility, and then again, like I said, there are energies or that you, and I feel like a lot of times it's created upon your own effort in the sense, it's the same thing. Like all of this stuff is relative to essentially our anatomy. Like it's reflective as we go into matter and antimatter. In a sense, your immune system in the physical realm is a microscopic or a micro expression of your extended immune system, so to speak. So your soul essentially has that sort of protection as well. But again, when the will or the soul is influenced or has been suppressed to a certain degree, the immunity and integrity of that, protection starts to diminish in a sense, because your body, your earth body, is also reflective of what they call the etheric body, et cetera, et cetera. The same way you broke down the umbilical cord. The integrity of these things is affected based upon how things influence you in this particular realm or reality.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So the same way certain things can invade your physical earth body based upon the integrity of your immune system, it's the same way things can invade the integrity of your etheric body. You see
the spiritual body.
Right, your spiritual body or etheric, it's the same thing, because we're talking about air essentially. We're talking about, because the physical phases is solid, liquid, gas, or gas, liquid, solid. Breath, breath, blood, and body or flesh. These are all the three physical phases of existence in this particular plane.
Mm-hmm.
So as you come in, you leave the same way. You see what I'm saying? You take your last breath. And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by the integrity of that particular thing as it leaves this body, because now that is encapsulating all of that in one. Because even if we don't talk about the liquid phase of existence, it still contains the air and the solid aspects of existence. So whether I'm in the solid state, liquid state, or gas state, these things still contain the elements that will form into liquid, that will form into solid matter. And now you have the Holy Trinity come into existence, which is Some people say fire. I want to add that.
I think it's fire though. In any event, you know why?
Huh?
No,
I said good.
Well, I think is earth. Let me see what I think. Well, I believe what makes sense to me. I feel like perhaps it may be earth, water, and fire. Fire dealing with the Christ, fire dealing with the Kundalini spark. And as you know, once that fire, that passion, rises, something has been reborn again, right? Reborn to be born, you have to what they do? They dump you into some water, or rather, birth. In order for you to live or to be reborn, you have to go through. The water has to break, right? So the water has to break, and however the water have to break, but the seed has been planted into earth. So that's dealing with the father who planted his seed into the earth, right? And then the earth, once he planted the seed into the earth, now that seed began to what? Grow. So that's growing in consciousness, growing in different particular organs or systems in your body. So that also can deal with, in a sense, a fire sign, taking action, motivation. Again, that Kundalini spark, right? DNA formation, right? And then once this child or this person has, or the Trinity rather, once it is ready to come out or to be born, it has to pass through the water element.
Right.
So I don't know about that air stuff.
Well, the reason why people say
and then you can say, and then when the baby or the child has been born out of the mother canal, the breath is the first thing that the child, gasps for or needs oxygen in order for it to survive.
Right. But
because you can fast, but you cannot fast. You cannot not have oxygen. You will die.
Right. Exactly. But the reason why I think people say air, the reason why I say air, because essentially, what is fire made of? What is the sun made of? It's a hydrogen. It's high concentrated hydrogen, and that's a gas. You know what I mean? And water. This is what I'm saying. These things are different degrees of how things are becoming more dense or less dense, and so to speak. Because water is in a liquid form, but what it's made up of is H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. And as these things want to express themselves in another degree, in different variations, they can now transfer into hydrogen, the air, you know what I mean, and emit fire, or they can fuel a car, and so on and so forth. So these things can interchange and become many things. You see what I'm saying? But when one of these things out of the many becomes, let's say, water, again, that doesn't mean it's still not air.
Because air can be water in another.
Water can be air. When it evaporates, when we boil in water on the stove, we go back to the stove and we leave it on too long. All the water in the pot is gone. It becomes a vapor. You know what I'm saying? Even when you look at a coconut, if you let a coconut sit too long, the water inside the coconut solidifies and becomes the meat, which therefore now allows, if it falls into the ground, allows a new coconut tree to grow. You see what I'm saying? But that solid meat or solid mass that is in there was once just liquid. You see what I'm saying? But as it matures and it becomes something else, need be, then it will solidify. It will solidify and do its job in that way. But it's still water, and it's still earth, and it's still fire, and it's still air. It's still these same things. They're just expressing themselves in different ways. It's just like, we talk about water and the ocean and all that, but space is water. I mean, it's the ocean. It's the ocean of the universe. Like when we go outside of it, because things are not even subjected to gravity. They're just floating, continuously throughout the space. If they're not subjected to some particular planet or some particular star system or whatever it may be that limits them to just being grounded in that particular space and time.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're not, and we go outside of this Earth atmosphere, we'll just be floating in space. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just like space, we'll become space debris. You know, and that's reminiscent of things floating in the ocean. So we're just looking at, you know, and again, as we come in through, like how you said, through from the cosmic mother, we're being birthed into this plane the same way, with this invisible umbilical cord and et cetera, et cetera. But I was saying, you know, as far as in like, because you was talking about transitioning and people knowing that, I think again that all plays a part in, you know, the integrity and the influences of different energies that are now particularly plaguing this planet, because there's so many. And I don't want to call them demonic, you know, because then it becomes kind of spooky in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, I think more so like how Delbert Blanton would say, even Phil Valentine, like they would say, the war, it's more so galactic. They was like, yo, it's more. It's real here, but it's real like, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? They were like, this is where the shit is going down at. And they were trying to get us to get our minds in a place where, you know, we can actually combat what's going on above us. You know what I mean? But we're so focused on what's going on right now. And that's why I think Panic, you know, him coming in and ushering with off of Bobby Hemmett, you know, and Bobby Hemmett saying what he's saying, but Panic putting emphasis on the humane aspect of our existence and how people, you see what I'm saying? People get caught up in humanity, and then they forget about the other aspects of our existence. You see what I'm saying? Like, and then he was talking about how the niggas in Egypt, all they doing was preparing for death. That's what he was saying. He's like, these niggas, you see what I'm saying? Like, everything he said they did, and that's why he was like, yo, when they was making these confessions, when he was saying that, and I'm listening to him, I'm like, oh, when they saying, I have not did this, I have not done that, I have not laid with a man, and et cetera, and all that stuff, because it's like, yo, I got to get light. You see what I'm saying? Like, I can't. You see, what they say, the Mayat thing?
Yeah.
Your heart has to be light as a feather.
52 laws of Mayat. Yeah.
Right. And then the whole thing is measured, what is it, a feather and a
heart.
What's the other? Right. So if your heart is not as light as a feather, you see what I'm saying? So this whole thing is about, and then we got the homie coming in now. This is why I'm liking this brother more to take by, because the homie Barrow was talking about how with the ship, you know, carbon is changing into carbon 7. You know, and he's like, yo, because usually, particularly, elements don't give up neutrons. But he's like, for some reason, with this ship, we have carbon now giving away a neutron, and it's becoming carbon 7. So what that's saying is that things have to become less dense and become less lighter. So then, when he say that, I'm like, oh, we got this whole movement now, you know, coming back to surface about veganism and fruitarianism and breatharianism and all this kind of stuff. You know, and eat the sun and all this kind of stuff. And people talking about how it's going to get hotter. If this is true, this is the reason why we get these messages. Because we got to get lighter.
Well, I think that when people saying things are going to get lighter, I feel like when they speak about global warming, global warming, in my opinion, is the rise of the Kundalini energy, or the rise of consciousness. So once people begin to rise, once people begin to rise, you know, on a level of consciousness or whatever, melanin starts to download even more, right? Once that melanin comes, then that heat projects outward or whatnot. Internal heat, projects outward or whatever. And that is the rise of the Kundalini, hence global warming.
Right.
You understand? It's just basically rise. Global warming is just the rise of consciousness, which is happening right now. Global warming. We don't even know what month we're in, what freaking season we're in. We don't know nothing. Let it be no weather modification. Let's see how damn cold it is.
Right.
Today
Right.
was goddamn Christmas. It was warm. Why? Because they want motherfuckers to go out there and be buying stuff.
Right. That's true.
And having a good time and going, eating someplace, or let's go, let's go out to eat and blah blah blah. It's warm. It's not freezing outside. Black folks is going to go out.
Right.
You understand? Right. So we don't even know exactly, what season we're in. According to one of my Facebook friends, provided me with detailed information according to the Kemetic text, where we are in like the year of 6,000, 6,052 whatever KMT or whatever ECT, something like that. But nothing about no 2017.
Yeah, I mean, the Moors came on the scene and told us how much they added, 500 years to the calendar. Under I think his name was Pope. One of them fucking popes.
Gregory. Pope Gregory.
Right.
The Gregorian calendar.
Right. There you go. Yeah, under his rule. So essentially, yeah. Even on that, with that fact alone, we are out of time or off the wrong time scale. And then we have, when we look around, it's like in this particular part of the world, they're doing Eastern astrology, or they operate on the lunar calendar, but over here we operate on the solar calendar. And then, the Chinese New Year is this particular time, and the Ethiopian Christmas is this particular. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
there's so many different variables to how people are utilizing time in a sense. Like, people are not on the same time schedules on one accord. You know what I mean? So even with that being known in our environment, that is creating some sort of conflicting, cognitive scheduling. You know what I mean? Like, it creates, like, okay, well, especially if you feel like you identify with Africa, you know what I mean? He's like, well, if I identify with Africa, and they're probably the closest thing to having time right, but I'm over here in the U.S., and I'm operating on this time, then where does that place me at in time? You know what I mean? Like, I'm confused. Some people are confused because it's like, over there in the East, they're doing this, and then, over here we're doing this. It's like, what is the truth? You know what I mean? Like,
well, the truth. The truth is, obviously the illusion of time has succeeded, right? Because as we know, there's no such thing as time. That's why motherfuckers get confused.
There you go.
You get what I'm saying? So what's the confusion? What time really? What is it? No, this was an agenda, just like GMO, being put in foods and things of that nature, just like that. This is all an illusion, and that's why I always say the real world is the spirit realm, and this, what this physical dimension is just an illusion. Everything.
Right. Right.
You get what I'm saying? So, in any event, like, you brought up a good point in terms of, like, being in tune with nature or whatever. That is also known as the Circadian Rhythm.
There you go.
You know,
You laughing at me?
yeah. Go ahead, Uncle. But anyway, the circadian rhythm, right? So the circadian rhythm deals with what? It deals with seasons, and it deals with I don't want to say time, but it just deals with nature. If our bodies were properly aligned or divine with nature, we would be up. That's why people from the Caribbean, they up at 5 o'clock in the morning. What?
That's true, yeah.
What? Because what?
Yeah.
They're sun people.
Right.
So they're living in their natural environment. I was listening to a show by Sister Blue back in the days or whatever, and she spoke about black folks becoming more depressed during the winter season. Do you know why?
The lack of sun.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, and it's so ill with that because supposed, which I feel like it's true, you know, because everything vibrates, right? So the sun is supposed to actually emit a sound, like it gives off this sound, but we can't hear it because we are limited to the frequency we can actually tune into, and that may be because our body, our earth body, maybe not our soul, because our soul is resonating to the point where we understand that to be true, we know that to be true. So it has nothing to do with our soul, but we incarnated into a situation now where the earth bodies have been kind of like, downgraded in a sense. And then, of course, there's the work that we can do, to get our bodies or raise our bodies' level of consciousness through sensory perception. But we're not taught that. So if the sun gives off a certain sound, and we're soul people, and we have this thing with music, that could play a part in people's depression too. It's because, they're now in a situation, especially we're in an urban environment, where all the sounds that are given off is like sirens and ambulances and gunshots and, just all of these different things that have a certain kind of frequencies that distract us. Because when you're out in nature, you hear the birds chirping, you hear the crickets, you hear the trees, you hear, etc. You know what I mean? The silence has a sound to it, even though it's, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think that also plays a part too, like what you said, was not being in our natural environment, and the sun being blocked out by these skyscrapers and stuff like that. When we living in these urban environments. I was telling somebody, because, people was talking about gentrification. And I was like, well, I started to look at it as, maybe this is not a bad thing, because it's pushing us back into environments. A lot of people are moving upstate, they're moving back down south. They're moving to places like that. Some people even end up going back to the Caribbean. And I'm like, is this really a bad thing, us moving or them pushing us out of these cities? You know what I mean? That's becoming more like crystallized, but not in a good way. Like, it's becoming more like, just closed off and condensed in such a way where everything we're interacting with is more and more artificial. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so is this a bad thing for so-called black people? Gentrification. Maybe this is, it's just like, Panic was saying, he gave an example, which I think is a good example, right? He's like, sometimes people receive their blessings in the most oddest way. Like, he's like, you hit your knee or some shit, and now you got to go to the pharmacy to go get this or whatever, and the next thing you know, you bump into somebody. Oh, he was like, he's like, you eat something, and then it causes your stomach to be upset, and then you got to go to the pharmacy to get something for your stomach, and the next thing you know, you run into somebody who has a job opportunity for you. And then, based upon you actually eating something fucked up, and you getting sick, based upon that chain of events, you now ran into somebody that will get you or put you in a position where you was looking for. Because he's like, this person is looking for a job, but they didn't find it yet. But based upon the chain of events that they went through, even though it was fucked up, the outcome was to their benefit. You see what I'm saying? So, like, with gentrification, it's almost like we've been being depressed, we've been feeling anxiety and all this kind of stuff. So maybe it's like what you said, with nature working in such a way that it creates that sort of, just that push. Like, all right, y'all niggas ain't getting it. Like, y'all been told where y'all from. Y'all had this realization. Yeah, so many teachers come before y'all, so many disciples, et cetera, et cetera. So many people have been sacrificed to deliver this message. Y'all niggas still ain't getting it. All right. Tough love.
Right.
Now you're getting pushed out of your neighborhoods, which is not conducive to us anyway. You see what I'm saying? We need to be in these particular environments that are more trees and all these kind of stuff. So is gentrification really a bad thing? It's the same thing with global warming. If we say global warming outside of the explanation you give with the Kundalini rising, if it's really going to happen when the planet heats up, and we know that these people that are our adversaries here cannot deal with the sun as it is right now, and the sun is going to become more hotter, and it's going to eliminate them. Is global warming such a bad thing? You know what I mean? Like, is it really a thing that people that are on the right path should be worried about, or should they be celebrating?
Well,
yeah,
again, yeah, but according to my definition, global warming is just symbolic to Kundalini rising. People are now becoming awoke. Now, it's interesting that you said sun getting hot because Dr. Delbert Blair, I remember listening to a few of his shows, and he mentioned that he don't believe that the sun is hot. He said because the sun is closest to the sun is closest to planet Earth during these times, during the winter solstice.
Right.
The sun is closer to the Earth during winter solstice, during Christmas Eve or Christmas, whatever, the 25th or whatever. That's why they say what they say, the 5 point stars or whatever, which is also in a sense symbolic to the sun, but it is further, or rather, yeah, it's closest to planet Earth. Now, and then he also said, and which doesn't really make sense to him because the sun is farthest away from planet Earth during July. July is when the summer season really, really kicks in. So how is it that we are living in, how is it that we're experiencing these hot temperatures when the sun is further away from the sun, from planet Earth, in opposed to when the sun is closest? Right now, according to Dr. Delbert Blair, the sun is basically closest to planet